these changes are opportunity. I always giggle too that, I've run brokerages forever, and I was in California when COVID hit, and we had what were called PED forms. And in order to show a house, you had to sign your life away and, send DocuSign of 46 documents before you could even step foot in the house. And everyone complained, but they also had record-breaking years. So same thing. I watched that pattern of complain, agents having their best year ever in real estate, and then it changes again, and we complain. And so agents would come into me when I was a manager, and they'd say, hey, I just hate change. And I just honestly put, with the most compassionate, sympathetic energy I could, I put my hand on their shoulder and say, well, first of all, our entire industry is based, your job security is based on people making change.
Welcome back to Life at 10 Tenths, where we inspire you to live at the pinnacle of your ability and purpose. I've got my co-host Matt Benelli with me today. Matt, good morning.
Good morning to you, sir.
And I am excited. We have another special guest who's also a really good friend of mine and supporter of what we do, and we're a supporter of what he does. We have Ryan Secrist, the actor, the MC, Wrong Ryan Secrist, everybody.
Ryan.
He is equally as powerful, equally as amazing. Ryan he runs Rise, and it's a coaching and consulting, and doesn't run it. He owns it. He is the creator of this. And Ryan, I am so grateful for you in my life. I'm grateful to have you on the podcast today. And good morning, sir. You are looking great early in your world.
Hey, it's good to be with you guys. Thank you for having me. I always love when we collaborate, and I could say all the same things of you, man. Just the journey has been incredible. Glad both of you are in it. Thanks for having me.
I love being able to share ideas. I love our phone calls when we're not doing things like this or teaching or working together. And we always are kind of kicking things back and forth. What are we seeing? What's happening out there? We kind of bring things together. And last time we spoke, you brought a lot of, how energy is affecting people, how energy is creating the results that people have, but it also tears people down if they're not careful about it. And you had a couple models that really got my attention. And it's funny, everything that I'm watching out here in this industry, and we're watching people have success, we're also watching people really struggle to figure out how to manage through this marketplace and through this world. Yeah. A lot of it's coming back to energy. And this is where I reached out to you, and I'm like, dude, we need to talk. We need to bring this to this platform so we can bring it out to more people, to share how important energy is and how it can be so amazing, but also so devastating if not used correctly. And so I'm excited to go down this journey with you today. I know we're going to talk about energy. We got some other things we're going to throw around, but where should we get started, boys?
Wow. Let's jump in, man. It is a season of energy. So on both spectrums, positive and negative. I've never seen anything like this in my life, honestly. Not even the Great Recession. So this is our opportunity for sure. Especially.
Well, let's pick right in there, Ryan, because I think that's fascinating because, we're seeing, what for all intensive purposes is a calmer marketplace in terms of the speed of deals and things like that. There's less urgency. I mean, and whether you're in a micro market that is not doing well from your perspective because you're seeing high days on market or whatever it is, like we're not in the 2021 of like, oh my gosh, if I don't go see this house in the next 5 minutes, I am going to be homeless situation. And so, but we are seeing this energy like weirdness going on among agents. So Ryan, why don't we just start right there? Like what are you seeing among the agents out there in this market in terms of how they are maybe mismanaging energy to start off with?
Yeah, I think we have a huge opportunity. So my core belief, change equals opportunity. So when you start to see change rather than say the problem anchor, I start to go, okay, I'm being gifted this like a little bit of a pebble in my shoe, as my wife says, that's causing me to look at something so I can change a system, I can change a process. So I want to kind of frame up this entire conversation that this is an opportunity conversation, which also means that we have to talk about both sides of the energy spectrum, which is the positive end and the negative end. But the negative end, if we can frame right now that when we go there, it's a pebble in the shoe conversation. It's the universe gifting us with, hey, I need you to pay attention to this. There's something in you, Ryan, that needs to change. So I've been a student of energy for a long time. I can look in my life and see periods of great energy loops that attracts great things into my life. And you look at the science behind us, and it's there, and quantum physics and all of that. It's beautiful. I mean, humans are incredible. We're beings of energy, and we're leaving this gift of energy, whether positive or negative. We're leaving it everywhere. So, and I can look at and see seasons in my life where my energy was not right, and what transpired through all of that. So, in religious circles, we're going to call it spirit. Here we're calling it energy. I mean, it's universal. It's universal. And so what's interesting now, I think we have the perfect storm or opportunity to actually take a deeper dive in this, and that we must, in fact, the invitation here today is become a student of leadership, self-lead, and lead with the right energy. Learn when your energy isn't in the right place, because we're human. It's not always, sometimes I wake up on the wrong side of the bed. But we're being gifted this season of this perfect storm of opportunity in energy. And why do I say that? Let me just give a couple bullets on that, and then we can go down whatever road you guys see fit. But, look at the Great Recession, which I mentioned a minute ago. It was very black and white. We were very wealthy. And then the next day we weren't. Some of us weren't, or whatnot, right? And so then we just buckled down and we did what we had to do to get out of it. So homes were really expensive, and then they weren't. In the real estate market. And then we had this gradual climb that shifted to a seller's market in about 2012 in most markets. And we've been running that. Frankly, we were even running it after the COVID real estate boom in 23 into some markets into 24. And it feels very pronounced that it's shifted to a buyer's market, which is, I call it a fake buyer's market, because we still have record low inventory. So see the perfect storm we're getting at here. So we have record low inventory. We have record low demand. We don't have the foreclosure defaults that economists and analysts say need to be there for a massive crash like 2008, right? And so you look up and you say, okay, and we don't have the risky loans like we had, and people are not underwater. We have record breaking equity. So we have sellers in strength positions, but we have this fake buyer's market. Buyers now in the last few months are so pronounced in their strengths to come into the market for the first time in 12, 13 years. They're like, wait, we've got options here. We've got options. We can ask for concessions. I mean, I'm just a personal example because I'm an active sales agent too. I mean, if one of my clients, has a repair list from an inspection and we total it up at let's say $3,000, they're like, let's ask for 20.
So they got like a little lead, they got like a little bit of room, and then they were like, well, we're asking for, can we get the property for free? How far can we push this? Cause it's got a crack in the siding. I think we can go for the big one here.
Totally. And so you zoom out and you're like, this is actually an energy conversation, because that seller's bringing a weird energy, the buyer's bringing an entitled energy. Kind of good for them because it's been 13 years. So, but the unrealistic energy. And then here we are in the center of this not so black and white environment. Now I'm going to add one more layer, and then we can go whatever direction here. We have been on devices with the smartphone level since 2006, 7, 8. We have become, and I can look in the mirror, and this is my story. I've become so detached from being inside of myself and feeling things and being quiet and bored, which science is coming out saying you got to be bored. You've got to have these moments. And I look up and go, been in such a dopamine hit since smartphones, and really since the advent of things like Instagram, that I've had to say, wait, how is all of this impacting? So, Great Recession, we didn't have smartphones. They were just coming out. And so we have all this history, right? And anybody can go search this up, and look at the studies on boredom and how important things like that are for creativity and centering and energy. It's just not clear cut anymore. It just is very convoluted right now on how do I get into personal leadership, or as behavioral scientists say, full self. How do I get into full self so I can have the impact that I need? Because I got into this business for freedom, financial freedom, the ability to have flexibility, and we can have all those things. But when you start putting in all these variables, it's like a connecting flight. Your odds of breaking down are greater. So how do we peel back the layers, stand in our personal authority, have impact with our sellers, bring our buyers through? And I do think this is a season we have a license to lead. So we have to be purposeful about inner self. And by the way, I have the playbook of what not to do. And that's why I'm so passionate about this stuff. This stuff.
You brought up a whole bunch of directions here, and so I think we need to kind of piece this apart a little bit. But I think one of the things that stood out for me is that I think it's interesting about the marketplace that we're currently in right now, Ryan, is that we have people that are they're kind of not seeing the beauty in the market that we're in right now. They're not seeing the beauty, and we actually have really good sellers that want to sell. We have buyers that want to buy. If you can figure out how to work with them correctly, there's actually a lot of business to be able to help people with right now. But it's funny that the marketplace that we complained about so much, where it was moving so fast and it was so crazy and we were on call and everything was moving and we had all these multiple offers that we had to juggle. I mean, I remember somebody said, I got 40 offers in on a property. As much as they hated that and they weren't sleeping and they were just miserable, there's people going, can't wait till it goes back to that kind of pace. I'm like, what do you really want? Because I don't know if that's what you want. There's a really good market right here, but we have to be able to settle down. I think you talking about our dopamine hits and where we've been and how we function right now, I think there's a huge play in that. I'm really happy you brought that up.
Yeah, man, you raised such good points. And right behind this market is another market, and I feel like it's coming sooner rather than later. And we should be stacking listings right now because it's whenever, I don't have a crystal ball, but whenever that switches, it's going to be overnight, and our buyers are going to go, what? And then we're going to have the reverse problem where sellers are now empowered and they come on board with that really, really quick. Mm-hmm. And the buyers are going to be asking for the house for free, as you said, and it will have changed overnight. So I look up and go, this is a self-regulation season, and this is our time to master this. These changes are opportunity. I always giggle too that I've run brokerages forever, and I was in California when COVID hit, and we had what were called PED forms. And in order to show a house, you had to sign your life away and send DocuSign of 46 documents before you could even step foot in the house. And everyone complained, but they also had record-breaking years. So same thing. I watched that pattern of complain. Agents having their best year ever in real estate, and then it changes again, and we complain. And so agents would come into me when I was a manager, and they'd say, hey, I just hate change. And I just honestly put with the most compassionate, sympathetic energy I could, I put my hand on their shoulder and say, well, first of all, our entire industry is based, your job security is based on people making change. So we're probably going to need to be at peace with that. And because you chose the wrong industry. And secondly, your opportunities are always, like, bottom line, always rooted in change. And Garrett, you and I have talked about that a ton.
Yeah.
You become a keen observer of change and you're going to be just fine. So rather than fight this stuff, go first into where can I show up in leading self so I can lead others. And that's what this is about. And then you start getting into the science of attraction and how that actually works. I mean, when you're leading from an energy of desperation and I got to have a closing, people may not put a fingerprint on that or a thumb or a finger on that, but they may say, or fingerprint, we're going to put fingerprints all over each other, but they may not put a reason why they feel that way, right? But the seller's going to walk away and go, something's off with him. And sometimes it's big and sometimes it's low, sometimes it's subtle, but there's an energy there. They don't necessarily know what, but they didn't feel connected because I was leading that all I saw was the dollar sign. And that detachment, that is hard. That is really a skill that has to be learned. So this is the season to learn it because we're being gifted so many opportunities right now.
Well, Ryan, I love the focus on, like, okay, how do we get into this self-leadership so that we can serve idea that you mentioned, because with the detachment, I feel like we've gone away from self-leadership and has made us more selfish in a way, because everything that is a trigger for us through social media and even television and everything is all about the individual, like me, right? And so all I think about is me not being whatever, which creates this downward energy spiral, I feel like.
Yeah.
So when you get into this self-leadership, can you talk a little bit about, like, how that is actually used as a tool to help serve? Because, I find that one of the challenges that I see among agents with energy is the energy gets negative or gets, I should say, elevated in terms of the tension side of it is because they're thinking so much about themselves, where they rank, how other people view them, and they've lost sight on the opportunity to serve buyers and sellers in their marketplace. And so how does that fit into the, because I think some people will get confused of like, well, if I need to self-lead, that means it is about me. It's yes, but no, right?
Right. Self-leadership is all about others, right? I can't put people through if I'm not standing on higher ground. So you raise a really good point. And I think, so let's talk about kind of the strategy for self-leadership, like the actual action items. Let's give people something tangible here. So
Ryan, before you talk about the actual action items around this, I think it's really important that you and I and Matt, we've all watched right now that if you don't have good self-leadership right now, if you are not taking care of yourself, it can be devastating to your business. I've seen some of the best agents I know out here right now that I've known over the years have some of the worst success ratios right now. They're getting their butts handed to them through this marketplace, and a lot of it is they don't have good self-leadership, and they're not in control of their energy. They're not in control of what they can give. So I just want to set the stage with that before you go down kind of like what you see around this, because
perfect.
It's something that's it's a pandemic. Can we use that term again? It's
yeah,
it's the epidemic. It's really serious.
That was a little bit of pebble and shoe response to that. That's great. Okay, so I think the point here, it goes back to an earlier point, just to kind of put a bow on this anchor point. We are so attached to devices and noise. We have to unplug. We have to reset. We are not, our brains are not designed to take on all the information we're putting into it. I mean, I am so self-aware now that if I am doom scrolling on Instagram, and I can feel my energy shift, which will lead us into where we're going with the spirals. I can feel my energy shift into lack. And I go immediately, and I'm pretty on purpose about this. And I will go, oh, you know what? Phone needs to come out of my room. I need to go for a long period of not having, and now I just don't even have it in my bedroom. And the nights that I forget to go put it, and we have like a mud room with we call them lockers, but they're cabinets. Each of us have one. That's where my wife keeps all my stuff contained. So my piles.
My wife, my stuff.
So everybody needs a good, like, put your stuff in here box, right?
Cubby. But I have to put it there. And actually for a season, I had to put it in the trunk of my car. I was addicted. And I still think at some level we're all addicted, and I'm still addicted. And so but I will notice in a second when you do this work, and I'm a work in progress. Nobody ever arrives here, but I am on the path of mastery with this. But I'm a hot mess like everybody else, just doing the best I can. But I will feel that shift immediately into lack. And then just, oh gosh, they just got that new car and I don't have that new car. And we talk about the stuff and we go, oh yeah, that's yeah. No. Sit and evaluate what happens to you when you doom scroll and you're seeing everybody with their perfect life, their material goods. Something happens. I don't care who you are, how deep you are into this work, something happens. So we have to unplug. So what I'm alluding to here is Abraham Hicks, who I love, the emotional guidance skill. And so you have to have models to work from. Your brain has to be able to say, oh, I have this model in my head. I felt a fundamental shift in my energy. What just happened? And so I'll send you a copy of kind of one of our playbook. I don't know if there's a way to let people grab this, but I'm totally good with it. It's just a little, we call them, playbooks. So we have an energy playbook, and in it has Abraham Hicks emotional guidance skill.
We'll make sure it's in the show notes on this. It'll make sure it's in the description so people can link to it. So on YouTube, you can put it all over. So no, we'll make sure everybody can get their hands on that. That's awesome, Ryan.
Perfect.
So when you talk about the social media, and we are seeing people's highlight reels is what we're watching. I mean, we're really watching the best of the best. Nobody posts that I had a miserable day today, and hey, I'd really love to have a change in my. Nobody posts that kind of stuff. And it's funny is where if you go back, let's say to like 1950, that person that you saw that got the brand new car or was telling you about the awesome trip that they just took to Hawaii, that was like in a conversation you would have one-on-one with somebody. You'd see the person down the street who got the brand new car and like, did you see the Johnsons just got a brand new car? Like that would be the conversation. Now you have let's just say 1,000 people on your social media. Every single time you get on, you're like, oh, they got a new car. They got a new car. Oh, they're going to Hawaii. They're in Hawaii also. Oh, well, of course, out of 1,000 people, yes, you can see in people's highlight reels that lots of people are out there having fun. Like, we can do that. And how fast it changes too. I haven't been to Hawaii in a long time. Like, I could use a new car. Like, my car's kind of getting like, gosh, everybody seems to have a new car. And it just starts to spiral down.
I want to challenge people's social media kind of attention, because I think there is the time spent, but there's also what are you doing with the time spent? Because you can have people who are like, well, I don't doom scroll. It's like, okay, go to your explore page right now and tell me what is on there, because the algorithm does not lie. It doesn't feed you things that it wants to show you. It feeds you things that you want it to show you. So your algorithm is now a mirror into the content that you pause on, that you click on, that you watch for more than 3 seconds or whatever it is. And so we have this non-conscious thing. People be like, yeah, I don't know why my explore page is filled with all of this stuff that I don't really like to consume. It's like, but what are you stopping on? Because now it's not about who you follow and what you see, because you could have 1,000 friends and never see anything that they post because it's not what you want to consume. So we have to also recycle. And so I like what you said, Ryan, about disconnecting, because when you disconnect, I've had this, my wife thinks I'm crazy because I like, all I'm talking about right now is like camping. Like, I just want to get out into the woods. Like, let's go into the woods. Let's do like a week long, like, road trip that's off highway and all this stuff, because I want to connect into like, the nature and God's creation versus man's creation in a way, because it gets distracting when you just get so sucked into that. And you can see that in what is being fed to you outside of your quote choosing. And so I like the locking it in your trunk and all that kind of stuff. But then what do we do from there? Like, then what's the next step after we pull that away from us?
Beautiful lead in. So part of self-leadership is understanding what puts me in let's go to the emotional guidance scale. You have an upward spiral, and we're all human. We have both spirals. We have an upward spiral and we have a downward spiral. Okay. And so if I'm too connected and I'm too flooded with dopamine, and I'm too detached, because that's what happened to me. I looked up and I'm like, I am so detached from authentic full self Ryan, and I need to reclaim that. So you got to get a little pissed into action, if you will. Okay. So the emotional guidance scale, part of this is understanding, where am I? Let's start with the morning when I wake up. Okay. And I literally will lay there and say, where am I? Because I could have had a heavy dream. I mean, lately I'm having this recurring dream. Okay, one thing everybody needs to know about the friendship here, the 3 friendship, is we have a great sense of humor and laugh a lot together. But I have this recurring dream that I cannot get my family to the airport, and everybody's luggage is not right and mess. And so, of course, I'm pulling up AI and I'm like, please tell me what this dream means. And I'm like, oh goodness. All right. So if I have that dream, I wake up and I'm exhausted, because trying to get my family of 5 to the airport and luggage problems is like, and I love planning trips. So I think that's what it's, what it's anchored in, is my worst nightmare. Okay. And I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm using this as a dumb example, but it actually gets the point across, because it does happen. It happened the other day, and I woke up and I was not in a great energy space. I was actually in a downward spiral. So I'm like, what am I feeling? I feel heavy. I feel pensive. Okay. I'm not angry. So I know I'm at the upper part that can transition into the upward spiral. Okay, so I start thinking it through, and I'm like, okay, lay here for a minute. What's going to work? I have a playlist on Spotify that some energy coaches have encouraged me to use, and there's one song particular right now that really, in that one song, that just steps me into the bottom circle of the upward spiral. Okay, so now I feel just a bit of contentment there at the bottom of the. I feel better. Okay, and then I'm like, I know I need to get up. I know I need to do my morning runway, which I call it a runway because I'm in tune with myself now, still work in process. But I'm like, look, some mornings, like the morning that I'm in the downward spiral, I need a little bit longer of a runway versus a routine. The last thing I need on those heavy mornings is a checklist that somebody's told me will optimize. Because I read that Warren Buffett has like a Diet Coke, an Egg McMuffin, and reads all the major newspapers every morning, and that's his morning routine. So I'm starting to see some counter science. Doesn't mean morning routines are bad, because I think people are like kind of throwing that out there. No, it's great. But some mornings I don't need a checklist. Some mornings I need intuition. I need to operate from a place of moving my energy. And so it's a long walk for me. And I live, we used to live at the ocean, and now we live in the desert in southern Utah. And so we have a beautiful river trail adjacent to my house. And I love going out there at sunrise. And that starts to move me up. Okay. And so you've got hopefulness as the next rung. You've got optimism. And I start to move up the rungs. Having that model and starting my day in evaluating where my emotional state is against that model is key.
So I want to go back to this when you start your day here and you realize that, okay, I'm off. I think there's been so many trainings out there that have say, ignore the pain, ignore the negativeness, ignore the space that we're in, and just be positive. Just positive thoughts, positive affirmations, positive things, and everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to pull itself around. And I find that be in the moment and stop and say, what is broken right now? Like, what is not working right now is one of the more powerful moments that you can put yourself into to be able to correct, to be able to say, okay, I'm acknowledging that I have been spending way too much time on social media. I have been spending way too much eating bad food. I've been spending way too much time on my phone late in the evening, instead of going to bed at the time I usually go to bed at. To stop and acknowledge all of it, you need to walk away. You need to put yourself into a quiet environment. And I think that then allows you to then bring the positivity and the new direction you want to go in at a way higher level that your brain now goes, I know the problem, I see what I've been doing, and I'm now wanting to change. I'm now wanting to go in a different direction. I keep finding this more and more. People are not willing to acknowledge that they're off track. They don't even want to say it. Because they're acknowledging it, and that's bad because you're bringing attention to it and you're putting focus on it. So I love this quiet walk, shut down, acknowledge that things are off. It's so, so important. So anybody listening out there, it's okay. It's okay to acknowledge that you're off track and things might be broken for a second, because that's how you can adjust. So keep going up the energy spiral here.
Perfect. So, and I think you absolutely raised some important points here. And I want to anchor one thing there is I don't need to go from, if I'm in a downward spiral, which is just heavy energy. And you can see when your listeners pull this up and look at this emotional guidance scale, they'll see that, you kind of have to identify where you are, and the deeper you are on it, you just need to start moving up incrementally. And the top of the downward spiral is boredom, and the bottom of the upward spiral is contentment. Pause there for a second. Boredom and contentment touch. Okay. So I don't need to jump from, let's say I'm at worry, which is right kind of almost in the middle. I can't jump from worry to joy and empowerment, which is the very top of the upward spiral. I just need to go incrementally. Okay. So if I'm in worry and fear and doubt and maybe in disappointment, then I just need to incrementally try to get up to boredom. And then from boredom, I can move into contentment. Okay. So what activities, and this is where we have intuition. And one of my colleagues that's been course riding with me in Rise, amazing human being, and just wrote a wonderful book, Antoinette Perez. We've been in each other's life for 20 years. And she literally is like, Ryan, you speak every time you train and teach and talk into intuition. We have got to stop with the absolutes and go get centered with self. And Matt, I'm with you. You put me in a campground, or my favorite is backpacking off the grid. That's where I kind of met myself again, right? Is nature. So what is your intuition tell you? Where do you need to go to get back in touch with full self? Okay. Full self. And it's unbelievable because I know that nature does it for me. Okay. I know that water does it for me. I'm fortunate because I live in a year-round warm climate, and I've got a pool in my backyard. And I'm not kidding. Sometimes I'll walk in the door and my amazing wife will be like, yo, what's up? How are you? And I'm like, I'm good, but I need to ground in that pool first and then come in, because it's just a constant. And to think it's not is silly. And another thing that you pointed out that is a upward movement to upward spiral for me is what am I putting in my body? How am I treating my body? It is the vessel. And when you look at the science behind cortisol and its physical toll on your body, it's stressful out there right now. There's a lot of intensity in our market. So how do I self-regulate? Well, the way I self-regulate is just that. I have to make sure my physical body is well, that I am exercising, that I'm putting the right things into it. I mean, I always heard the analogy, like when in a health class, you can't put peanut butter in the gas tank and expect your Ferrari to go down the freeway, you know? Okay, that is absolutely 100% true. And I watch agents eating the junk food at their desk while they're working. I work 24/7. I'm available 24/7. That's not right. One tiny tweak we make in coaching, and you guys do the same thing, is you put boundaries up against your core life values and you live through those, not that you go live those once you make the money, because that never happens, actually, by the way. Meltdown usually happens, and I know from personal experience. And so when you reverse engineer your life around the things that matter most to you and you give parameters without explaining yourself to someone and not being available 20, that's attractive. That's full self, right? And I'm healthy, I'm well, my physical body can take the stress. I have boundaries with my clients. I had a coach once say to me early on in my career, 21 years ago, be careful who you let within 3 feet of yourself. Unfortunately, I was like, that is so cool. And then I had seasons I let people that shouldn't have been there within 3 feet of myself. So we learned by living, right? Like I said, the playbook of what not to do. But I am so on purpose about that right now. I mean, I left a beautiful listing appointment with my business partner, beautiful listing, incredible area. I left and I'm like, we're not an energy match with those people. And these were the concerns, these were the red flags that they put down that cross over into my core life value. I'm a little worried about this. And that was about a month ago. And he called me and said, you know, I'm having my own concerns now based on another meeting with them. So it's, look, this is in the millions, this property, there's no competition. But I'm so in tune with self that I'm like, this is not something to bring within 3 feet of me. And I love these people enough to not let them come into my life.
Let's get into that, because when we come back to the marketplace we're in and how agents are starting to adjust their energy based on conversations, these 3 feet moments with clients and things like that, and where they're supposed to be the step down transformer, as we like to say, in the relationship when it comes to tensions, because, you know, buyers and sellers, like, there's a lot of emotion there. This is a big deal. They're going to bring the high and low energy to this deal no matter what, and it'll surprise you. So now we have grounding into ourself and self-leadership, and now we go out into this marketplace. And we have the opinions of others. We have what our client wants and needs. Garrett, you had mentioned a client who, you know, their seller was having a little bit of trouble, so they just gave a commission just right out of the gate there and just started to put their own energy into that person's situation without even knowing the entire situation. So Ryan, how do we manage now this energy spiral when we start to bring our clients into this? Because this is a people business. We can't escape that.
Yeah. Well, most people live their lives in reactive energy. So if I'm just sliding into the market to the default of what's there, not being purpose about my energy and being in full self, then I'm going to be reactive. Okay. Highest performers, entrepreneurs, leaders, they master both their emotional and self-energy states. I think of it like the East Australian current. My kids grew up in the Finding Nemo era. And all of that abundance and all of that great energy, even if you're not feeling top of chart energy, it's a big current flowing all around you. And it's about personal alignment to step into that.
I have the picture right now, Ryan, of the turtles just going, just go with the flow. Go with the flow, man.
Totally Crush. His name was Crush.
There you go.
Right. So I'm a visual guy, and all you have to do is have a visual model that it could be like, I'm outside of the current and I got to get back inside the current. So to Matt's point, it is so imperative that I center self through a morning runway, the things that work for me, incrementally move myself up, know yourself, know how to get there. And honestly, one of the fastest ways to up your energy is to get out of the selfish culture that exists now, the me monster, and actually do something for somebody else. When I was in my 20s, some things weren't going well in my life, and I ran home, even though I was living away. I was up in the area, and I ran to my parents' house, and I had a fierce, wonderful, fierce in all the right ways, mother I mean, at her funeral, I don't think the hero stories I heard about my mom that I didn't even know were just astounding. And here's a woman that was loved and loved. And I was like, my life, woe is me. And I was putting little markers in all the bad things that were going on in my life. And science has actually shown you have just as many good things. So you choose where you put the markers. And I flopped down on the couch and woe is me. And she walked in and she looked at me and she said, you have all your arrows pointing inward. Go do something for somebody else. Get up, go volunteer, mourn it, but move on, man. And so
Good for her.
even a ring I wear, my wedding ring, my wedding band, just because I'm pretty athletic, I've got one of those silicone rings, but I found one with an arrow on it and I just have to flick it when I feel all my arrows pointing in. And so part of this is getting in that current of abundance and all of that. So when working, that's a long-winded frame up for where your comments, Matt, but working with sellers right now, I have to be in full self, because if I am reactive energy, then I'm showing up in the wrong way. I don't have to be in their energy. And you know what? Seller owns the house. They can be frustrated. It can be all that. And so we have, because of that pebble in the shoe with this dynamic with clients right now, we are really mastering what needs to be said now. And up front, I'm saying, look, I have to give you, part of my job description is giving you hard information. And I don't love that, but I have to. I owe it to you to be that truthful. And then I'll give the information, right? And like, for example, we've stopped through advice of our economist that we partner with, Stephen Thomas at Reports on Housing. Everyone should follow Reports on Housing on Instagram. That one, I go doom scroll on. Okay. But, Stephen Thomas is like, look, at the end of the day, don't look at days on market, look at absorption rate. And rather, I've always looked at absorption rate as active listings and sold. He said, look at pendings, because that's the snapshot in the market right now. So I had to say this very thing to a guy that I represent with some beautiful listings that I have. Just the other day, I was like, look, my job is to deliver hard information sometimes. And that's my job description. And I don't love it, but you need the truth so you can do with it as you may. And your absorption rate is 0.11 in your market.
Yeah.
And I dominate the sales in this particular area. And so I'm like 0.11, that's like 3,000 some odd days on market. So here are your options. Option A, option B, option C. Am I missing anything? Do you see any options? Nope. What would you like to do? I'm here for you. My job is to get this done. That kind of conversation. Like, there's have to up our skills.
There's skill sets that come out of different markets. And you brought up something right when we first started that we haven't seen a market kind of like we're in right now for about 13 years. We really haven't been in this world, especially for buyers, to have any sort of power whatsoever. We're really going back about 13 years ago to when that kind of was there. And I've been saying to the people that I coach, you've got to have the difficult conversation. Like, what's going to separate the really professional agents from the ones that are just have a license and showing up and hoping something's going to work is the ability of actually having really tough conversations that are going to put it all on the table. They're scary. They could potentially have that person go, I don't want to hear this right now. I don't want to hear it. I'm going to run the other direction. But the worst thing you can do is not have those conversations, not put it all on the table. And now you have a client that you're dragging through the weeds trying to have successful, sale or purchase. And we're not getting anywhere because we haven't set them up properly to actually handle the environment that they're currently in right now. The powerful conversations need to happen. Any of you listening out there right now, this is a skill you need to be improving on, working on, bringing to the table every single day. But you got to be okay with yourself. And this is, Ryan, what I think goes back so powerful is that if you have not done the self-work, you can't have the powerful conversations. You can't have the tough and this is in your personal relationships with your loved ones, with your kids, every aspect. If you are not okay, you can't take care of those people on the outside.
Well said. And so inner family practice, IFP has the 8 C's of self. So this is a secondary model to really anchor your point, which 100% accurate. Eight C's of self. When I am in the positive energy spiral, and remember, I have a long spiral there. So some days I'm at the very bottom to that contentment that could flip over to boredom, but at least I'm in the positive energy. And I think it's beautiful to look at the span of our amazingness as humans, that we can have a full tip top like spiral experience day, and we can have a moderate one, and we can have a low one, but it's still in the positive energy. So that gives me comfort, right? Because I have a little inner Eeyore that's this far. People don't know this about me. They're like, you're so upbeat, you're so happy. I'm like, yes, because I got this thing in there going, it's raining, my umbrella doesn't work. I mean, I have battled that my whole life, right? So it's like funny because we come on these things and we talk about all we've learned. Well, we've learned them because we are this mess. There's a reason why I said I'm planting my flag right now. I'm not staying in this. And 8 C's of self is a paired model for me with the emotional guidance skill in my coaching program. And there's 8 C's, and it's in the document that you can share with everybody that I'll send with you. But my coach has told me, like, Ryan, just in the moment, ask yourself, am I calm? Am I connected? That's to myself. Because think about it. We all have seasons where we feel disconnected, right? And am I curious? So I usually do it in a reverse order where it's, am I calm? Am I curious? Am I connected? So if the seller gives me will you do it for 1%? And I have Bob over there that's willing to do it for 1%. I've learned to just look at them. I'm calm. I'm curious. And I do feel in the positive energy spiral. I feel connected to self. Okay. And other times I don't. So I'm like, can I give you a call back? Then I go walk around the block. No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. That's self-leadership. I'm not going to have this conversation with an intense seller when I'm disconnected from self. Okay. Or I'm in a negative spiral. I'm like, hey, we need to reschedule. I've got a little bit of an emergency or something. That is an emergency, right?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned curious. You said, can you actually move curious to the second place right here? And I think one of the pieces that, when I heard you say curious, that for me is like, am I in a space that I can ask questions? And when you have that moment happen, there's two things that happen. You either get defensive or you say, tell me more. I want to know more. Like, where are you coming from? What are you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to do? What makes you ask for that? And you can't go into those questions if you are defensive and if you're in the fight or flight mode. So I think it's really important what you just said is that, being calm, but then saying, okay, am I curious or do I want to fight back right now to be like, well, do you realize like I've been a realtor for this many? Look at all the homes I've sold. Look at
I've sold 3.5 billion in 5 markets. Who gives a flying rat's ass? Like, don't care. So what matters is the seller's going to put the home on the market, get it sold, and achieve their goals. So you're absolutely right. So if I go defensive, that's a selfish energy, by the way, negative spiral. I'm defending some part of me that is still kind of wounded. Now that doesn't be it could be a huge wound. It couldn't be, but anytime I look at my history and I'm defensive, I get to keep that thing I'm defending. And most of the time it's a false belief. Okay. So I know I'm calm and connected if I am starting to ask questions. So they say the 1%, and this ties into the leadership and the conversations and having hard conversations. Run the scenario if I don't have the hard conversations, if I didn't tell my seller that it's a 0.11 absorption rate in this pocket of my area, right? If I didn't have that conversation, the stress of waking up every morning that I'm avoiding that person, and I've lived in this as an agent, and I've been in the business 20 plus years. Okay. So I'm avoiding them. I'm carrying that. It's the cortisol in my body, the physical toll, and then it blows up. I'm defensive, whatever. I've played in that. I'm not going to do that anymore. I would rather lose the listing than take my life core values, which is my wife and my children at the top. I separate them out because I chose her. I didn't choose them. I just chose to have them. So people often on their core values put family. I'm like, we're going to split it out. I love my kids. And I've chosen my wife over and over again. We've had a great life. So it's like, and we've had high highs and low lows, but I'm going to just put that separate. I don't want to bring that into my family anymore. I don't want to come home with the weight of that seller that's not listening to me. So if you can run those scenarios, it's great. So now I look at, and really play it out to a conclusion. If I avoid this conversation, why am I avoiding it? This is all negative spiral energy. Get clear, intuition. What is it going to take to get me in a good space? Well, I probably is a skill or a conversation. And so coming up with that conversation, like if the person hits me hard that, John Doe said he's going to do it for 1%. Will you do it for 1%? I've learned to look him in the eye and say, why are we still talking? If your goal is 1%, have you not listed with him? Why did you call me? Why did you call me back? What is it about my services that you can't let go of? And shut up. Let that awkward silence. And I'm like, well, your company's global and has a international marketing platform. And oh, okay. I'm 3%.
Isn't it awesome when they answer and you're just like, oh, you know why you called me back. You know why we're still here sitting here having this conversation. You know why we're doing this right now. That's amazing.
And the only reason I'm not having the conversation in those seasons I didn't is because I was attached to the outcome.
Well, so one thing that I've watched in people building a business and again, we get to play in the real estate business building world more than anything, is that, and this goes back to everything we've said, is that when you're younger and building a business, it's all about, I need to make money. I just got to get another closing. I got to get another deal. I got to do this. There's a beautiful thing that happens when all of a sudden somebody figures out, okay, I don't need to make any more money. I actually have control of the things that are important to me. I don't need the fancier car. I don't need all the stuff. I don't need the bigger house. I can actually live a pretty good life here. Now, they have goals, they have things they want to achieve, but it's not, if I don't get it, I'm a failure, I'm ruined or whatnot. It's I have those things I want to go do, but I'm really content and good with where I'm at. There is a takeoff that I watch happen with people's worlds and businesses when that moment happens.
They get everything they've wanted.
They're all of a sudden,
look, and every single one of us have had the journey with this.
It's like,
I feel like mine's been very recent. Yeah.
It's like, I can't shut off the flow of business. I can't, like, all of a sudden everybody's calling me and wants me to to help them with this. I'm like, cause your energy is so damn attractive right now because it's not about you. This goes back to your mom. Turn your arrows outward. Like, you get a chance to do that when you find that space. And I think some of it comes through all the life lessons and learning of things that we go through. Some of it you have to go through yourself to come out the other side. Some of it you get to learn from hanging around Ryan and myself and Matt and other mentors out there that you can go, oh, I don't want to have to live that myself necessarily. I'm going to see if I can learn this through them and take that step forward. Because you can do that transition any point in your life. Usually it happens though at a certain point, all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a different game we're playing here, and it just gets better when you figure that out.
Yeah, well, and of course, I'm such a skeptic with my inner Eeyore that I have to find the science behind that. Dr. David Hawkins wrote a book called Letting Go. There's a chapter in there, if you're going to read anything, on desire and want. And everyone should freaking read that, sleep with that book under that, especially that, rip out that chapter, put it under, the whole book's amazing. But his research on desire and the idea that and you think about this in context of everything we've talked about, Instagram and feeling like I don't have something, okay, where we're going to go, like think about everything we've talked about, the seller that I've got to get this, my life depends on it. When we desire something, we are literally programming our brain for a gap between where we are and where we want to be. And literally that reality now shows up. I'm never where I want to be. Gratitude is a beautiful thing that everybody listening has been exposed to because we're all coaching it. And some days are hard. Some days it's hard to feel grateful because we're human, right? The negative energy spiral will make it hard to feel grateful. But when I can really say, it's crazy, my family is healthy, I live in a beautiful home, I drive cars that are just fine, right? And I'm very intentional that my business needs to grow here and I need to hire this person and my numbers need to look like. Intention is different than want. Mm-hmm. Want will program your brain to a gap, and your reticular activating system will go out and find evidence that you never have what you want. And now you're outside of the East Australian current and you're working from desperation and lack, and you will not, and I will not find the footing that we need for an abundant life. All these connect, all of that we just took it in a big cycle. Where's my energy when I wake up? What do I need to get it right? In my meetings, am I calm? Of the 8 C's, I'm going to ask myself, am I calm? Am I connected? And if I'm those 2 things, I'm going to naturally be curious. So I just focus on those 3 because I can't remember all 8, right? And that goes in my personal relationships too. The other day, Tawny just asked me a simple question and I felt myself answer a little sharply. And I was like, oh my, wait, why did I answer that way? I'm not calm. I'm not curious. Oh, I haven't actually come out of the intensity of my day. So I got to go float in the pool, work out, whatever it is, hike up the mountain behind my house, reset. Okay. And we just brought this full circle. So now I'm leading with an energy of abundance, help, guidance. Oh man. I mean, even, and then just notice the conversations you're having over and over again and we never stop and pause and reflect, or we do it very minimally. And it has to be part of my morning where I'm like, gosh, you know what? There's a pattern in what the sellers are hitting me with. So now I'm telling sellers right up front, just to give one more example of kind of the strategy or the tactics is, look, I'm telling sellers right as we sit down at their kitchen table, I'm like, look, this discussion today is about us getting into a partnership. It is you and me together as partners, a joint venture. You have this beautiful home that is going to be put on the market, and I have the experience. And this is the moment where I can give my credentials, this amount of sales, this many markets, this many units, whatever, and we're going to bring that together, those different skill sets, the house, the experience, and we're going to partner. We're going to go take on our common enemy, the market. The market is our enemy, not me. So if I have any indication today, because it's very common that this meeting for sellers, they approach it with you versus me. If I feel that energy, I will gather my things today because I respect you enough to not waste your time. Because if you're coming at me like it's me and you working against each other, this will never work. I've had partnerships that we have not worked together and they have failed miserably. Tell me one partnership where it's like, gosh, yeah, we're super successful. We're incredibly amazing, but we hate each other and we're against each other. And they laugh. Yeah.
I call it the triangle of death. If you find yourself imagine like a picnic table that's shaped like a triangle. And if you find everybody, like the market has a seat, you have a seat, and the client has a seat, and you're not on the same side of the table with them, this is the triangle of death. This is one of those moments of, oh no, we have a problem here because we're all fighting against each other. We're all trying to get what we want and we're not working together. And the minute you can change that to sitting on the side of the table with your client across from the market, that is a successful situation. That is good energy to be working with.
Totally. And then it's like, how do I lead on if we could just pause and have time and see where we are and then take on the patterns of what we're giving here are the benefits of being in full self and in a positive energy spiral. And I could be at the very bottom of the energy spiral, but I can accomplish these things. And so then I start saying buyer's agents are not being as purposeful about these skill sets they need with their buyers. So what am I constantly having to do? And then I remember when I was practicing in Northern California, it's common up there that you have all your disclosures and documents are housed in a system. And I've got one that I love, and there's a couple out there. And as soon as somebody contacts me in Southern Utah, and this is not the norm in this market, we've done a pre-inspection. We have a certified letter from the contractor who did all the repairs and the seller saying we fixed all these things in the inspection. And so this is what starts to happen, this kind of creativity. When you're in full self, you start saying, wait a minute, now how can I lead others to help get them what they want? So the buyer's agent is contacting me. How do I make them look good? And how do I come over into the conversation when I know I physically can't be there? And so the link goes out and says, here's the seller disclosures. Here's the pre-inspection. Here's the certified letter that the contractor said they fixed everything. The preliminary title report, the CCNRs, whatever else you're putting in there, the site map, all of it is in there. And it's going to look like you're giving it to them. Like you went and gathered all these things, buyer's agent. And I'm shocked how many buyer's agents don't use it. But guess what? Every time one agent takes the lead or receives the gift, and comes back, we just had this a few months ago, and the seller, the buyer's agent actually called my partner and I and said, the reason why my sellers chose your home is because of that package. And you made me look so good that they took all that, read it, and it was between your house and another house. And they're like, let's go with this seller is trustworthy. They've provided all this up front. So again, back to our pebble in the shoe conversation, just you have to be in touch with yourself right now more than ever, because then you'll come up with the creativity that is needed in this market to not only lead yourself, but lead others, sellers, buyers, and the other agent. There has to be leadership with the other agent right now.
Pull in gratitude on this, because you brought that up as kind of like the loop that brought this all together. And I think it is like the wrapping that goes around all of this, because gratitude is the one thing that is across everything. It's proven by science. It's in all the spiritual teachings. It's in every single religion. It's in everything. And there is universal agreement that gratitude is the action, is the emotion, is the feeling, is the practice that will bring you into out of energy spiral, whether it puts you at the base of the upward spiral or anywhere upon that. Like, it does that, right? Because gratitude is the ultimate contentment. But like you said, it's also not putting you in a way where you're acknowledging like that it removes the gap. It just takes that gap from desire and eliminates it. And if you install that as a practice before you go on a listing consultation, before you do a buyer consultation, before you make a customer service call, hey, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to lead these people, to guide these people, to work with them, to partner with them. And if you feel friction there, that gets into what you were saying, where maybe there isn't a partnership, but maybe if we just bring more gratitude into this conversation, we can evolve into that. Because without gratitude, we then start to look for competition. That gap widens not only between us and our goals, but us and the people around us, right? And so, how do you now from a practical standpoint, how do you practice gratitude throughout the day in the mornings? And, where does that come and play a role in what you do and what you coach others to do as well, so that they can take that one thing and deploy it whenever it's most needed in order to bring their energy back to neutral or into that net positive?
Yeah, and man, great question. And I've ascribed to almost everything to try to find my footing here. And this is going to sound funny when I say it, but I've led a lot of panels for a lot of different companies and all that. And I always tell people to share their mess, share the day that they woke up and didn't feel like that person. Because sometimes in panels and discussions like this, we come from a place because we've had our teeth knocked in, but we don't talk about that. And so we show up with the end result. And sometimes people could be listening to this today, and I hope this isn't the case, but they could be saying, gosh, I'm just so far off from all of this. Well, me too. Like, we become experts in these things because we showed up in the very darkest of days in our worst self, and we planted a flag and said, I want to climb out of this. So what I'm about to say, that was long. I have these today. I think my pattern is long-winded preface to my point is, and this is going to sound funny, but anyone who knows me will know the right energy here, but I struggle with gratitude. I'm a grateful person overall, but sometimes it's very hard for me because my brain, based on my life experiences, I've always had a heightened nervous system. So I'm more into that energy if I'm not purposeful. And these days I'm really coming out of that in great waves because of work that I've done as it made itself apparent. So if you're with me, I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to share the stuff that I struggle with. So I've done the right 3 gratitudes a day, and that has worked for me. Okay. That's worked for me. And I think the message here is get in tune with yourself and find what works for you. But I had days that felt like a task to check off a box. And I just made peace with it, and I still do. That's okay. Maybe some days I'm the high end or middle rung of the low negative spiral or the negative spiral. And I just needed to go through the motions today to just keep the action there, right? So I want to acknowledge that, because some days there's a lot going on in our lives and it's hard to feel gratitude, but just do it anyway. I had somebody who I really respect, who I met in a yoga class when I moved to Southern Utah, and she just has the gift of energy. And she came on my coaching group and she told everyone about lofty questions. And this was for me a game changer. And it doesn't mean this is the right thing for you, but it is a powerful option. And trying to expand people's mind that maybe it's writing them every day. Maybe it's writing them and lofty questions, which I'll explain here in a second. Maybe it's just lofty questions. And so for me now, I talk out loud when I'm out by myself in the morning. I was out there at sunrise with my dog this morning, actually before sunrise, because I committed to do this really early in the morning. So I'm with my light in the dark against the river trail, and I enjoy that too. And I speak it out loud. How is it that I have everything I need in my life? That's a lofty question. How is it that my family is healthy? How is it that my business is thriving? How is it that I work with the very best sellers? How is it that I hit this GCI number without effort? How is it that, okay, that's a lofty question. Our brains do not like open loops. So for me, that action of a lofty question has moved me into a space where I'm grateful and I'm creating an open loop in my mind to go see those things in my day, to manifest those things into my life. Okay, so that's what gratitude work looks like for me now. Sometimes I write them down, and sometimes it's me speaking out loud to the universe, hiking up a hill.
So it's interesting, Sarah and I, and most of you don't know, but Sarah, my wife, Sarah, and Ryan and Tawny, we all joke all the time about we are like, the wives are dealing with the same problem with their husbands. There's an inner joke that goes on all the time. But what's interesting is we're having a full conversation just the other night about what is the right pattern for people. We're talking about writing down affirmations 25 times a day, whether you're writing 3 gratitudes, you're saying them out loud, or you're closing your eyes with maybe affirmations and visualizing what that looks like or saying them. It's an interesting thing that Sarah says, how much work has been done on finding out what people's learning modalities are and then applying in how you approach a system like this. Because Ryan, you're audible. I'm an auditory person. I'm an auditory person. Matt, what's your learning modality? I think you're kinesthetic. Every bit of me says you're a kinesthetic learner.
I could be. I mean, on the tests, I always score on the visual side, but I think that's just because visual is like the default.
Visual is the most common learning modality out there. Auditory is the lowest on the spectrum, usually the amount of people. But I think that it's good to know that about yourself, because if you're a kinesthetic person, you should be writing them down. Like the act of writing is really, really, really powerful. If you're auditory, like the best thing you can do is walk out into the woods and say it out loud and hear your voice, hear yourself say it. Like if you're going to go down these paths to go, what's right for me, be careful looking around at your neighbor and go, well, that works for them, so that must work for me. That's not how this works. That's not how this comes together. You've got to, and this goes back to knowing yourself, getting to know yourself. It's full circle again. How did we get back here again?
Well, I'll just add on to that too, Garrett, because I think, I love when you find that and you do that work, it's particularly with gratitude. People are like, what's the right way to do it? And I think it's great to see the tips. And I always love asking how people do it so that you can go and experience it. Because I look at gratitude isn't a thing. It is a feeling. It is an emotion. It is a state of being. One of my favorite quotes is Dr. Joe Dispenza says, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. And then when you look at scripture, it's because gratitude is the ultimate state of love. There is no negative energy that can come into your world if you are truly in a state of gratitude. So then it goes into, for you, what is the action that can get you to that state of being, whether it's writing, walking, speaking, all those things. Because when you find that, oh man, I mean, we all have experienced it. And sometimes it's very narrow when you're in that full state of gratitude and we're like, how do I get that back again? How do I find the way to be there?
Totally.
More.
Well, and what we're saying, what do we get back, is that was full self. Yeah. That's what full self, when everything's flowing, I feel in my personal power. If you look at places that you've felt that in seasons in your life, that's full self. So what you're saying is, how do I get back to full self? And that's critical.
You talked a second ago, Ryan, about this gap. And so I want to just go back to this for a second, because in the wanting stage, what we're looking at is this gap of this person that I want to be out here. Where am I right now? And a lot of times we focus on the gap in the middle of, I'm not there, I'm not successful enough, whatever that might be. And then you made another very subtle comment of anybody who's listening to this and listening to this energy spiral. I hope you're not going, God, but I'm so far away from maybe these rungs on this ladder of this energy spiral. And that's why I started to think about it, of like, it is rungs on a ladder. You don't jump from one all the way up to the top. You're not going to do that. You're not going to all of a sudden go like, oh, thank God I found myself at enlightened, where, here I've been in despair here for so long. It doesn't happen that way. But going back to gratitude, I think the more I'm sitting here listening to both of you, like that is the way you move up on the rungs of the ladder. Like that is the way that you can take that next step up to that next space on that ladder where, if anybody's listening, you're like, how do I start making forward momentum? It's probably one of the easiest places to start. And so I know when you're in a state of, when you're out of gratitude, some people go like, well, where do I start? Go for a walk. Look at the flowers. Look at the sky. Look at the leaves. Look at what's around you.
Movement for everybody
Move.
opens you up. I mean, look at the science of like trauma, and moving opens up your cells, and it's the absolute best place. Whatever movement looks like for you, just do that. Start there. That's beautiful. Marry the gratitude work with physically moving your body. That's a great
It's one of
way.
my favorite things to do. I love that.
Same.
I'm ready. Let's go. Let's get out. Like, let's just take this podcast now out on the trail and go for a walk. I'm ready to do it. Gosh, Ryan, like this is so amazing. For those of you listening, the energy spile is in the show notes. Maybe we even flash it on screen. That would be cool if we can do that. So you guys can take a look at that and all the things. Ryan, also like how, if people want to like dive deeper, because we're just scratching the surface really with all this through our conversation, how do people follow you and connect with you and learn more about what you're doing? So if they want to dive into a little bit more of this stuff, they can kind of absorb that through your teachings.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a private elite coaching group, and so that's just kind of, through energy, the right people find their way to that. But I post a lot of my coaching tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff and things we're talking about. The best place is my Instagram account, which is Ryan_A_Secrist. Secrist is my handle. So Ryan A. Secrist with the underscores between my first name, middle initial, and last name with that underscore. And I often will do events for the industry. So we have a 60-day challenge going on right now and things like that. So the best place is to follow me on social media where I put that out there. But I think, and even just immediately, if people want a deeper dive, look up quantum physics. Shows everything is energy, right? Neuroscience confirms that your emotional state affects you, and your cognitive function, creativity, and decision making. And then if you look at, there's an area of research called leadership psychology, and that's pretty impressive to look at too, about regulating self. So it's all there, and it's powerful. And when you operate from your full self, you are truly operating in your ultimate power. And that's, I think all three of us here, we are committed to helping people live their best lives. Mm-hmm. And that is different for everyone, but the core of it is rooted in this, period. So more self equals more power, period. So there you go.
I love it. It's fantastic. Garrett, anything else that you wanted to throw out there before we wrap this up?
No, I just appreciate, Ryan, I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate that you call me at your highest highs. I appreciate that I have actually met Eeyore. Very rarely do I get to see Eeyore, but every once in a while, Ryan will be on the phone. He goes, dude, I can feel like I can let loose, and I appreciate that I am that person, because it's a good space to have with the people you're comfortable with, to be able to let go. And I think we've both been there for each other on that path, especially in the recent past here. But appreciate your friendship, man. You're an amazing person. You're an amazing teacher and speaker. So if anybody gets a chance to go be around Ryan on a stage, in a classroom, you need to go do it. And yeah, man, grateful for you.
That's very kind. Thank you. Feel the same of you, brothers. So let's keep having impact in the industry and in people's personal lives. I'm committed. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll try to keep Eeyore over here.
I love it.
He does slip out every once in a while. Then I hear my mom say, "Mourn it and move on." Okay. All right.
Ryan, thanks again, man.
Appreciate you.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for being real and authentic with everyone. And if you guys do want to see Ryan on a virtual stage, we actually had Ryan in our Life at 1010s community. He hosted a success lab for us where we talked about energy and everything, and their slides and all that stuff. So you're going to have access to some of that content here when you click here. But if you want to go grab a trial into our 11 circle, you can go and see that recording with Ryan when he came in and presented to our community for an entire hour, which was amazing. Great questions and answers that came from that as well. well. But if you want to dive in and take the next step, if you're a podcast listener who's been listening to Garrett and I for a long time, but by the way, thank you. I talked to someone the other day who said they've been listening for, 8 years. And I was like, have we been podcasting for it? I don't even know if we've been podcasting for that long. I was like, that means you were there from the beginning. And I know there's a lot of you who've been listening from the beginning. So we appreciate you guys. If you want to take that next step, join our Inside Track. It's the place where we have all of our bonus content. We have videos, we have daily prompts, we have tips and tricks and all those things. And that will kind of then give you the next step in the journey with Life at 1010. So you can go to our website or download our app to find that and just continue listening. We appreciate you guys. If you got value out of this episode, which I know you did, I know that the majority of you listening were like, this was great. I got tons of notes from Ryan. If you were driving, hopefully you weren't taking notes, but maybe you got them in your head. Share this with somebody who you think would find value out of it as well. Share this episode out. If you want to throw it on Instagram, take a screenshot, tag myself, Matthew J. Benelli, Garrett _ life at 10, and then also Ryan _ Secrist, and then tag us all, and we can then kind of share it out and connect with you guys and enjoy this energy journey with you all. So guys, have a great day. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, you guys. Take care.